All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the First Look Show this week, Week 8, here on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station. My friend, as always, Degenerate75. We'll get to that in a second. Before I do, want to remind everyone this show is brought to you and presented by Degen75.com. Go there now, use promo code SHIPIT, gets you 10% off. And James, I'll bring you in, man, let you talk about it a little bit. How was your Week 7? And tell us a little bit about Degen75.com. A lot of good crossover between you and I.
Well, week 7 was, how many times have we said this? When the winning scores are like 250, 260, 270, just know that I'm not at the top of leaderboards. I just don't ever seem to get there on those weeks. So it was, a kick in the nuts. But that's why we play GPPs. We get kicked in the nuts. We get kicked in the nuts. And then eventually we kick everybody in the nuts, hopefully bigger than they kicked us. The one big takeaway I had this week is how refreshing it was to actually see some expensive quarterbacks break the slate. Mahomes, Lamar going off. It was kind of nice because it was kind of seeming like this whole season was going to be just play cheap stacks and it's always going to get there, and that's always going to win a GPP. It was kind of nice to remember that studs sometimes perform like studs and break the slate. As far as DGen75 goes, I mean, we're just a little site that could doing NFL, college football, PGA, and soon to be NASCAR. Just focus on those ones because we do not have the infrastructure to do it every day. We focus on the process, not picks and plays. So if that interests you, come check it out.
Yeah, appreciate it. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, like I said, a lot of other crossover. I know you're going to be getting NASCAR in the future. You've already announced that. You've got college football right now that we don't have. You've got the Stone for NFL and many other things to go with it. Great tool that you guys can use. So a really good supplementary add-on to get in there. You can get both of ours. You subscribe to ShipNation.com and to Degen75.com and get in for a lot less than most of the competitors out there. So check that out. Shout out to some of the chat. Our guy Tweezy, always first in. Stewie, what's going on? He's in here as well. AF Gator, man, you know it. Always here with the first look. But Cheetah does have us covered. It is NBA Day. Talk about that more in a second. And then another lunch for our guy Nick. Where did he sit here? Oh, yeah. Oh, damn. Grizzly Adams did trim the beard. Yeah, he's got that one covered for us. Justin, Brandon, Steven, appreciate all you guys joining us here on this Tuesday afternoon. You mentioned it. You've talked about these expensive quarterbacks getting there. That cost me a little bit. Like that, by the way, Minshew was the cheap quarterback that got there. I was not going on the flop leg, and we loved him the week before. Minshew goes back and gets the job done with downs, except it was against the Cleveland defense. Not what I expected to happen. So one of those things you see. Before we get into this week, though, I'll break it all down. I do want to remind you guys, if you do want to check out ShipItNation.com, get over there today. This code NBA10 will run out. It's a chance to get 10% off any membership. You guys can check it out there now. Use DGen75 today. Special only. You can use his code to get the 10% off that way. But just check it out. We've got all the stuff going up now. 2-game NBA slate, but the projections mixed with Solver, mixed with everything. You guys can see all of that. I used the same projections last year to ship 2. I shipped 3 live final seats to DK, but these 2, the blowout you see, 335 to 321, 372 to 351, that only really happens when you have projections that are good and different. So definitely check it out. Use the code DGen75. Let's talk about these games, man. Bye weeks are over for now. Not for this week. We're off the London tip. We're over all that. So we've got 13 games on this slate to go through. Where do you want to get started at with this one? We could start Philly, Washington, if you want, but just a grand scheme overview, how you see this slate. First look.
I mean, first of all, 13 games is like such a bigger difference than a 10-game slate. It gives you so many more options to really to me, pivot off of chalky spots because you just have more options with more games. And the other big takeaway I have is I cannot believe that on a 13-game slate, the highest total is 47. That's got to be a rarity.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, too. We've done a good job explaining this season, but some people could be joining us for the first time and wondering what the hell we're talking about. But like last week, remember we did this show. It was all those 38 totals across the board. And everyone, we all like these other running backs, myself included, certain spots that we were in on. Jahmyr Gibbs, the team scored 6 points. He puts up almost 30 on DraftKings. Again, it's not about the points they score. We're looking for fantasy points, not necessarily real life points. We've seen Desmond Ridder beat Tua that week where Tua had 42 points for his team and Tua gets 22. Ritter's team has 17 or 16 or whatever, and he gets 29. Like, again, we're looking for fantasy points, and that's the key that we're going to try and do when we dive into this let's get started. We got a lot of games to look at. So we'll start with Philly, Washington, 43.5 point total. Philly obviously favored in this one, even on the road. Like Philly just still looks so good. So give me your thoughts on this one. Where are you at with this game to start things off?
I mean, first of all, I got to tell you, like, I think that the Commanders, are going to be this breakout offense this year. I think we can safely put that to bed. I just don't think that's what they're going to be. I think they're going to be like a grimy team that plays defense. And for fantasy options, I don't love them. But the one upside I could say is their pieces are cheap. So, like, I am willing to play like some weird one-off pieces from the Commanders. But like, as far as stacking them, I'm off. But like, I could get behind a Curtis Samuel, a Terry McLaurin, a Brian Robinson, guys like that. But like, they're just not a team I even consider stacking.
Yeah, one thing I'll say for sure, though, is we've seen this lately, and I guess, I don't know if people want to chase it. It's still only $8,000, but A.J. Brown has been absolutely going off. And then the spot to beat Washington is with these wide receiver ones, and he's definitely a wide receiver one. I mean, he's top of the league right now, besides maybe Tyreek Hill with Jefferson out and Kupp just coming back and all this. Like A.J. Brown has just been nonstop. I think it was like, so I can't remember what they said. I think it was like some sort of record 5 games in a row or something that he's done 125 plus maybe, or maybe it was 6 games in a row now. And that's sort of something that you just don't see very often, eclipsing that. So yeah, 5 games in a row, beating 125. Obviously, bit of a back and forth here. We just seen some of these division games and stuff where it's a little bit, heavier, and you would think it's one side and it goes the other way. But I just don't see Washington being able to keep up too heavily in this one. Their defense can show up at times. Philly could have a bit of a letdown, but I don't love much else here. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about this one before we move on?
I mean, just that I think Devontae Smith, I still want to see him down to like 5,000, maybe the $5,500 range before I play him. But like, we've already seen the squeaky wheel narrative get there. He's got to be getting frustrated that AJ has become such a usage monster over him. So if you're one of those guys that buys the squeaky wheel narrative, I think Devontae Smith is always a sneaky option.
Yeah, we've been looking at him trying to make it work. He's doing his thing a little bit, but just not enough when you got A.J. Brown taking everything. That way it gets a little tougher, of course. One other thing was just the Sam Howell, Terry McLaurin spot. If you wanted a cheaper way to get access to this game and you don't want to go, like, I think we do see things like the pendulum swings, right? All those cheap quarterbacks got there forever. Last week we pile on them. At least I did. Myself, I had Lamar was my one guy that I went off the board to play. He had a good day, but then Mahomes put that to bed later on as well. So you see it like that. But now I think people switch back and go, oh, see, those expensive quarterbacks can get there. Mm-hmm. A.J. Brown still is only 8,000. People stick with it. And another way you could get access, Terry McLaurin's coming off 3 games now of the last 4, 15, 14, and 23 DK points. It's not the worst. That's another spot that you've seen Philly get beat up a little bit. So if you wanted to get the cheap route here, you can get Sam Howell for 5,200, McLaurin for 5,300, and then still fit in your guy A.J. Brown. I think that's just one other way you could look at this spot. Let's move on, though. Let's go to the Saints and the Colts. Anything you see here with this one early on? It's the similar total, 43.5. Indy favored slightly at home. Anything stand out on first glance? We go back to Gardner Minshew here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really like Indianapolis every time they're at home in the Dome. They're just one of those teams that just seems to give up enough big plays and gets enough big plays that these games can like sneaky shoot out. I'm honestly surprised to see this total down at 43. I know the Saints have been playing some defense this year, but like this just strikes me as like a 28-24 game with really affordable pieces. I would love to stack the Saints, but Derek Carr, getting constantly, the threat of Taysom Hill vulturing him just kind of scares me off that side of it. But I just truly believe that like Chris Olave is going to have a slate-breaking performance here in the next couple weeks. I don't know if this is the week he does it, but I'll just tell you what, I've played him so many times and failed. I'm not giving up on him now.
Did you see the news on Olave last night?
What? I did not.
35 miles per hour over the limit. They said he was Underhill, who does all the work, great for the Saints. It's like one of the best beat writers out there that actually is dialed in to his team. I think it was like reckless driving, 35 miles per hour over the limit. He complied with police officers and went in, but he was arrested for driving foolishly. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to shake out to anything, but just to say it, I mean, definitely in the fast lane is an understatement, I guess, on this one.
35, that's nothing. That's just I'm in a hurry to get to McDonald's. That's all that is.
Yeah, it is a good spot if you wanted to go here. Obviously, everything going up against Indy looks pretty good, so you can aim it from that perspective. But the other thing is Alvin Kamara. You want to talk about wide receivers? I mean, the guys might as well be one. Now we're going to 3 games in a row. This is his rushing attempts, 17, 19, 22, and then his targets, 14, 8, and 3, but then he had 14 the week before that. So it just continues for him. The floor-ceiling combination of Kamara just continues to be solid. You can go a lot of different ways in this one. I don't necessarily love the quarterbacks. I think, like you said, you could see a shootout here, but you also could just get your pieces of it. If you were going to go Olave, though, I wouldn't hate it if you wanted to stack it up, whether it's the Minshew side and use Olave or Kamara on the run back, or you just stack up both of those guys. But we've also seen on these winning lineups where people just use two of them and get away with it. Like you can get a $7,300 Kamara, a $6,400 Olave, or $4,900 Thomas, $3,900 Shaheed, whatever, with Kamara, and just play them and rack up all the targets and not necessarily need a guy like Derek Carr, or maybe it's time for them to switch it up the way he's been playing. But we'll see. Any other thoughts on that one?
I wouldn't mind like a little Olave and Josh Downs run back. They're just not pricing up Josh Downs versus the upside that he offers. Like I still can't believe he's under $5,000 for the role that he has in that offense. So if you think this game could be a sneaky shootout game, or that there's going to be some points scored, I think that that's a nice little secondary correlation piece. Olave and Downs.
Yeah, the Downs and Josh Downs definitely stands for his price. It stays down. They will not put it up, like you said. It's incredible. Had another big week last week. He keeps being involved. I guess it's up a little bit from where we saw it at, but like I said in the chat's talking about it too, like this for sure, Jen Joseph, like Carr looks like hot garbage. I just don't even think you need it though. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to get a guy like Kamara getting 8 to 12 targets, let's say, or give him 8, just say. And then you've got a guy like Olave and you want to use little pieces. You can just do what people did with the Arizona game last week. People played like Walker and JSN. In this case, maybe it is like, and they use Marquise Brown on the other side, which did not fully work out. But just to say, like, you could have a Kamara, a Olave, or Thomas, and then run it back with Downs on the other side and just get pieces of that game without even requiring the quarterbacks. Nick wants to know if you care about Jonathan Taylor after last week. Any love for him?
I mean, I honestly thought he looked pretty explosive, started to look like he could be there. I'm still just worried about like paying $6,200 for a guy that I think is probably at most going to get 65% of the workload. I want to see that number. When I start paying $6,000 or more for a running back, I want those guys who are truly leading in backfield. And to me, that's like 75% of the workload. I just don't like to pay over $6,000 for a running back and have to have it done through efficiency.
Yeah, I agree. And that's another thing that I think, again, we've talked a good amount of this in with Taylor getting his contract and coming back in, all that. Everyone's like, oh, that's why they shouldn't have paid him, because Moss has got it. Teams like this just like to run. It's nothing wrong with having two healthy guys that both do a pretty good job that can do it. I did think Jonathan Taylor looked better last week. It's just like you say, even at the price discount a little bit from some of these other guys at $6,200, it is a little bit harder to just get there when the other guy's getting 18 carries still. Like, that's just a huge discrepancy of opportunity. You need him to have that big play. You need him to get in the box. It just adds more relevancy to what you need out of his actual results than just getting workload and opportunity. Speaking of workload and opportunity, Najee Harris in this next game will go Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. Man, he needed that week off, I guess. He got 14 attempts, 53 yards and a touchdown. He caught 3 balls, still not doing much. And Jaylen Warren still did get in the box. So it's another sort of split backfield, but then at a cheaper price tags. You got 5,100 and 4,900. But in this game, you have Travis Etienne Jr. at 7,200, who continues. Now, this is 3 weeks in a row with 2 touchdowns. That's, we talk all the stuff about CMC last night going off again, 16 straight games. Etienne, triple threat here now, 3 games in a row of 2 touchdowns. Where are you at with this one? Jacksonville, Pittsburgh.
I mean, first of all, the fact that the point total is 41.5, I think is a pretty good indication that this game just reeks of slogginess. And like Etienne, like on the road at Pittsburgh, that's just not a good environment. And there's just no way that this touchdown regression for Etienne is not going to find its level. To me, he just seems like a trap play this week. I will definitely I would rather play Najee Harris than him, which is just like acid in my mouth because I hate Najee Harris. But I think that at home, I think the Pittsburgh is going to be scrappy, and I'd rather just take the price discount Najee Harris. But I think the real answer is I just won't play either of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now. And I was just, I was definitely agreeing with you on that. I was seeing something else because I don't know if Etienne's going to continue to get 2 touchdowns. But like you said, at the 7,200, it's tough to get there if it's only going to be 1 or it's not going to be the same. I was looking at red zone touches. Maybe I got different numbers than the chat, but Stevenson, I can pay for him if he's getting those red zone touches. Which ones? I'm seeing like 3 red zone attempts in the last 3 weeks. So again, if you see him getting in the box there on one, great, but that's not really much. Again, like I say, when you're chopping it up with another guy, getting all those carries, it's okay. And we understand why they're doing it, but I'm saying it doesn't make it necessarily the greatest play. Lower ownership for sure, a possibility, but just to say it, I mean, I wouldn't be counting on that too much. Pickett, 4,900, I guess the chat's talking about. What do you think about Pickett here if you wanted to
I wanted to believe in that guy, and even this last week, I considered doing some slimy stacks with him. But I think Pittsburgh is just content being a slimy team that plays defense, keeps games close, and then just kind of like wins them at the end. They're never a team that's going to try to go out and score 28 points and just beat you with their offense. And because of that, I can't play Kenny Pickett. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think that like they do have some high usage wide receivers, specifically Deontay Johnson. I think is a guy that looked pretty good coming back from injury, and at $5,000 for a guy that I would bet almost certainly gets 8 targets this week, I think he can easily pay that price tag off. And if he falls into the box one time, he probably could be a part of a GPP winning lineup.
Yeah, people know this. When I do a first look, I really do a first look. Like I don't have on Mondays, they're very busy. I don't really fully check it out. Am I looking at the right pricing that Calvin Ridley is $5,800?
Let's see. Ridley, $5,800. Yep, that is correct.
Wow.
DK's given up on him just like the community has.
This is pretty interesting. So I just noticed that actually, and I was looking up some of the DVP stuff just to see. It's not always the truest things to go off of. We've talked about that plenty on this show, but this is a game that I actually could see get sneaky. 42 points, but then you have pricing that's really super fair pricing. 4,900 for Pickett, 6,200 for Lawrence. You go to running back. We kind of talked about it. I'd be okay just being off ETN and hoping that those TDs regress, like you talked about there. Deontay came back last week, so it's not really much of a bump. 5,000. Kirk and Ridley, 59 and 5,800. Pickens broke out last week, 5,600. And then you go look at the tight end, Evan Ingram, 4,500. So, man, I know that Freiermuth's on the IR now, so you got Hayward and Washington. I didn't see how they shook out last week. It looks like 3 targets for Hayward. Did the rookie Washington get anything going? Does not look like it. So, yeah, not much else here, but I think many would be inclined to go to like a Jacksonville defense or something, and I'm okay with that at 2,800, but I prefer looking at it both ways here. And we've also seen where defenses can get there in higher scoring games. Last week we saw it with Cleveland in the Cleveland-Indy game. Low total. This one's only a 42 total, but this is the type of game where you could see it pop off in the first half and just go from there. So I actually haven't given up on those guys myself. Any further thoughts on that one?
I actually really like first thoughts. Once again, I'm just looking at this too. First instinct says I love Pittsburgh's defense at home. I just feel like they're going to get after Lawrence. He is not immune to trying to make hero passes, and Pittsburgh's defense is going to, I think, get after him. And we're just initially, this just seems like a defense I really want to attack at 2,900.
Yeah, I like that call too, and especially because it looks like early on with Jacksonville at 2,800, this is our perfect flip-flop spot. We did it with Minnesota, Chicago. We did it with New Orleans, New England that week. It was kind of like we can see why people would like both. Last week it was Cleveland, Indy. It did end up being Cleveland, and they ended up coming in decent at like less than 10. It was like 8% or 7% in some contests. So just to note that, like this is the spot I see it. 28 and 29. I think most people would be inclined to be on the Jacksonville side, and I don't hate it. It definitely looks good on paper. It's Pickett. I get it. You know, he has it in his name for a reason, but I definitely think you could flip it to the other side for $100 more, like you said. And Tomlin and the boys, man, they just get it done at home. I think he had this crazy quote this morning, said something like, they just no eye. I forget how he said it. The way he words stuff is phenomenal, but it was like no eyelids, got right to work. They just do their job. He's like, that's not really a compliment. That's just me making a statement about the team. So it's like, wow, he just really gets these guys to work. Let's talk about this next game, though. Battle of New York. We've got the Jets and the Giants. Huge total, 36.5. Let's talk. Again, doesn't take totals to get there, but I still have a hard time, at least early. I want to get you to talk me into something. Besides maybe some Wan'Dale Robinson flop leg, is there anything else here that you could go with this one, with this game?
I mean, that cheap wide receiver flop lag, the best thing I've ever fixed about my process is just not chasing those cheap wide receiver chalk guys. Like, they're so bad. I did play Jackson Smith in the Jigba, but like I honestly thought I was being sneaky with that. I had no idea he would be so highly owned. But for this game, Breece Hall, is he not a guy that's just trending towards being healthy again? We've seen him be explosive, and in a low-scoring, sloggy type game like this, the only guys I really give real consideration to are running backs and Breece Hall. Well, running backs and tight ends, and of course defenses. But Breece Hall is a dude at 5,900. I think he could like get 20 touches, get a touchdown, and could break this slate. I don't know. I kind of like him. I wish he were at home, but I guess this is technically home for them.
Yeah, both these teams really bad against the run, so definitely don't hate that. He's 5,900. I could actually see him picking up steam as the week goes on just because of the matchup. I know they're on the road, but it doesn't really matter about that. Like, again, it's not really the road when it's New York. So it doesn't matter that he's got 12 and 22 attempts the last 2 weeks. His targets have been consistent, 5, 3, 4, doing really, really solid there, adding into that. So there is a bit of a floor and a ceiling. When you look at the other side for Barkley, he's 8,000. And Was there anything with Barkley last game? I can't remember what ended up happening.
He caught that 30-yard touchdown. Outside of that, I didn't really see him do shit.
Yeah, I know what it was. He started slow and then picked up and then came from there. So he ended up getting like 21 DraftKings points. But yeah, the matchups for both running backs look good. The matchup for Darren Waller also looks really good, right? So if you go here, the Jets have just been getting eaten up by tight ends. And one thing I will note about Waller was the same thing last week we saw where, it depends, I guess, but Tyrod definitely just leaned on him. And he ended up getting that spot in the end zone too. I think he got in the box. He had 7 for 8, 98, and 1. So just really good usage across the board. I could see going to him here as well at just 5,200. Yep. Definitely a spot you could pick up on and use. If nothing else in this one, let's move on. Let's go to Houston, Carolina. This one's got a 43-point total. It's in Carolina. Any first thoughts on this one? It's Stroud back versus Young. So Stroud's, I think they were on bye last week, right? So it'll be Houston versus Carolina, Stroud, Young.
This one initially jumps off as like my favorite sneaky shootout game, right? Like just two rookie quarterbacks. Everyone's gonna think this game's gonna be a slog, but like I think that Carolina I think they're going to win this game first of all, and I think that they are going to win this game and they're going to score some points. We've already seen Houston is plenty efficient enough passing the ball, so like this just initially just reeks of a game that I'm either going to be stacking CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, which now that I see CJ Stroud 6,300, I think I'm leaning Bryce Young here.
Yeah, I like Bryce Young. I also think it's interesting to know one thing I'll look at right away, but the chat already said it too, is in on Hubbard. I think we've been waiting for a spot for Dameon Pierce once that O-line got healthy. Last 3 games, 13, 20, 24 attempts. Still some tougher matchups in there. Hasn't really got it going fully, but he can put it up, and we've been waiting for it. This would be a spot I'd have interest in taking some shots at 5,300. So I don't mind him. I don't mind Hubbard either. Wait and see. I don't know what the news is on Sanders. He's still Q-tag as of now, but for Dameon Pierce, I would have interest there at 5,300. Hayden Hurst at 2,900 seems pretty cheap. I know people will like Dalton Schultz. He's still under 4K, but Hayden Hurst is another guy that just looks really priced down from what you would have seen him earlier. I think we saw him up as high as 4K this season already, and he's dropped down from there. So I wouldn't hate
Thielen at 6,600.
Yeah,
starting to get that elite pricing, isn't he?
Finally getting a little bit of a boost. Mingo, 3,400.
Yeah.
Still been waiting for him to be a thing. You see it like even on 3 targets last game, he ended up having 9. Like you're waiting for a big game from him, but I don't know if he's going to go there. And the other thing I was going to mention about Waller on that previous game just sparked my mind was anytime someone's in on the cheap guy, Robinson being the cheap guy last week, we saw it all last year. Greg Dortch, everyone would play him, and it would be Trey McBride at tight end. Last week, forget all the bullshit about National Tight Ends Day on October 22nd. It was everyone's in on Robinson, or if they're making a pivot going to Slayton or going to the next level of Jalen Hyatt. And the answer was just play Waller at tight end and use up the same thing on another spot. So definitely don't hate that going back to him this week. But this game here, I like your sneaky shootout call. Those are sort of the plays I'd be in on. Even if you wanted to go a secondary stack with Pierce and pick a guy, whether it's pay up for Thielen, pay up 6,600, mind you. Guy feels like he should be 8,500 the way he's been playing this season, but hard pill to swallow if he was that price. 6,600, tough to say, but definitely could still get there. Let's move on. Let's go New England, Miami. Where are we starting at with this one? Miami big favorites at home, but New England coming off of a pretty big W there.
I made myself a promise after week 1 that I will never fade Miami when they're at home under any circumstance, and I'm not going to change it this week. I will pay the price tags. I will get in there. I don't think I'll make them my primary stack because it gets very expensive, but almost every one of my lineups will contain a Dolphins piece because they're just so damn efficient at home, and the best part about them is not only are they efficient, they're mean. They just they'll be up 28 in the fourth quarter. They'll still be chunking it deep. They remind me of the 2007 Patriots. They just don't care, and they will run it up on you. So I'm not worried about any blowout potential here because I know they're still going to be chunking it over the top, up 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing too is just they don't care. Like you say all the time, they'll just continue to pile it on. So if you go, you can still get action here without having to go that way. But I don't think anybody's worried about any certain matchups or Bill Belichick is back now because they beat. Literally the Bills have not looked that great, to be honest. I know we're not talking about the Bills here, but just to note, New England beat them. That was, it's surprising on paper. I know survivor pools got crushed and things like that, but realistically, the Bills, man, that was a team that we've just seen make mistake after mistake throughout this season. San Francisco is falling into that trap right now too, and this is going to be a good one when we get there later on. Nick, here was the problem. It was both. on the same day. And so that made it even worse. And then I had a ton of Kelsey, so I at least liked him being shown, but it was just not with Mahomes or the right setup and all that. I was playing a more of a PPR guy and all that. Did you have anything to add when it comes to that?
Wait, if I have another big thought on this game. Have you seen the splits on New England versus number one wide receivers this year? It's getting pretty bonkers, right? Like even Diggs was getting shut down for a long time until he caught that little sliding touchdown late in the game. So like if the Patriots are going to continue to take away teams' number one options, I just feel like that makes Jalen Waddle like a sneaky good play this week.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And I really liked Waddle the other night. And remember, he got injured or whatever, and then we got lucky that he came back into the game. It was a showdown slate, right, against Philly on Sunday Night Football. He was going to have a big game. He ended up still getting like 15 DraftKings points, which isn't going to do it at 7,500 on this slate. But I'm saying he missed a chunk of the game. He was involved. Like, they're definitely a guy that they can go to here. So I don't hate that. Is it Devontae Parker revenge game? $3,200? Didn't he used to play for Miami too?
Yeah, he did. Well, I mean, like, he was on the team. I wouldn't say he played. But like he, those revenge narratives, they just never really get there because those coaches don't usually like their players enough to go out of the way to get them the ball, especially when there's somebody as dusty as Devontae Parker.
Yeah, they don't care, right? That's the thing. Mike
they just want to win.
But Bourne has looked pretty good. I guess there's definitely like interest here, and I know everyone will have interest here because the total's 47. Miami's at home. We know they can pound all this stuff. Like, it's going to be a spot that people get to. But I do think these pass catchers all have some. I have some interest in a lot of them. Like you said, the Tyreek thing at 9,500, it could end up being almost like a Cup Nakua situation last week where people just continue to go with Tyreek because Tyreek matchup proof, which he is. Who cares? Mm-hmm. But if we get lucky in that sense, we could definitely go that way. And the chat's talking about Demario Douglas came in last week. I didn't see what his final stat line was. I'll pull it up here quickly for everybody because they probably want to know just to go see it. It was 4 for 6 for 54 yards. Got a rushing attempt as well. So just to note that, I mean, he's there at 3,300 if you want to look at him, but definitely fine to play pieces like that. That's one thing I will say. The week that Miami put up whatever, the big score, 70 or whatever, I think it was, or maybe it was the week after that when people chased him. Barrios was the guy on the Miami side that people went with. And like, how the hell did someone get there? Pretty simple. They just said, I'm going to use another cheap spot. I'm going to fit it into my game stack or my stack. And so I'm fine if you wanted to use a guy like Douglas instead of Bourne or trying to pick your poison on other guys. And then, Nick mentioned it again. Well, Wilson was fine too if Waddle's hurt, but we got to wait and see. Waddle came back in the game. So I don't see any suggestion that he's going to be out or anything like that. Smythe, someone mentioned it. Yes, he's always on the field. It's an insane stat line. I don't know if I can get it up here quick enough, but the amount of snaps that he plays, 44 for 67, 44 for 54, 54 for 65. He's always out there. He's always doing nothing. So it's a lot of cardio for him. Maybe that'll change one of these weeks, but I'm not sure if this will be it. Let's go to this next one. I think it's the lowest total on the slate, 36.5, but it does include Ritter, who's been involved in some of these low total games and still getting those fantasy points. But we've got Atlanta, Tennessee, and it's going to be Ritter. And I think, is it going to be Malik Willis?
That's what I was under the impression of.
Yeah.
This game, I got to lead with this. Is Bijan like just going to be like Percy Harvin? Like, is he just going to be a little fragile piece of shit that like can never like get there? Because this last week was weird. I played him in some run backs against Baker, and like watching that game was so tilting. Like, clearly, okay, if you're sick, you don't feel well, then why the hell are you like playing at all? And why are you coming in when the game's already over in the fourth quarter? Something about it just reeks to high hell.
Yeah, I didn't believe it personally. Like, I don't know if it's like a disciplinary thing, a rookie. You never know. They want to show him the ropes. Say, buddy, hey, we drafted you high. You missed. Like, who knows how it works? They don't really have to disclose that if they choose to do it. But it's the injury stuff or the illness. Usually they do. So I don't know why that wasn't disclosed. And then even if he was truly sick, and let's say we believe it, why did he come in and play them with 33 seconds left for a snap? Like, who gives a shit? Just throw anybody out there at the position. Like, it just was really, really weird to see that. So I'm not sure. They said he had an illness, a headache, all these different things. Really woke up not feeling well. Whatever it was. I don't know, but I mean, I don't think anyone's going to play him this week at 6,000 after that happened. People will have that worry in their mind. So what's your thoughts on using them this week? It's not the best matchup. Tennessee obviously has been a tough team to go up against anyway, but we just saw Minshew crush the Cleveland Browns, who would not be the matchup to use a guy against. We have seen guys get there against Tennessee. I believe it was Zach Moss on the week that Taylor had just got paid. So could Bijan come in and do his thing? Yes, 6,000. Maybe just for the pure tilt of the entire community, I'll have to play some just for that reason. But everyone said it. Arthur Smith, our guy Stewie says it, is a dumpster fire. Yeah, he doesn't care, man. Think about with Kyle Pitts last season. So go ahead, give me your thoughts on this game.
I'll just answer the Bijan thing. Bijan is probably going to be in a bad game script at the road against the tough defense with Cordell Patterson and Algier both looking solid, and there's questions about his health. So every single thing points to him being a terrible play this week. He'll go for 30.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, this is that we've been playing this game long enough. People say that's bad analysis. It's just it's the game. We play a game. People worry about it way too much. Oh, the matchups. Remember the week Surtain is going to crush Tyreek Hill. Bye. See ya. You know what I mean? You just have to play again. We'll pick our stands and take our spots. We just said it when New England has shut it down, but we're saying it's a game. If this, then that. If Tyreek gets a bunch of ownership and we see that, then we can go with that angle, not to victory lap and circle back and say it, to say that would, from a DFS and game theory perspective, that would give me interest in somebody else. In this spot, I really do like the fact that everyone's going to say, oh, who knows if he's going to. Last night, CMC. Oh my God, how many questions did you have? People saying, like, do you really think he's going to get? He played every snap.
Yeah.
He played every. Oh, he's going to be limited. Game. You think they're going to do this with his health? It's an oblique. All this stuff. It doesn't. I don't care. I don't care about what actually happens. Besides the end of the night with my results, I'm playing the game, and I knew he would be at least somewhat down in ownership, and he wasn't even that much because enough people think like this now. But just to say it, that's why you have to do it. You have to go off of these thoughts and be able to play against it. And Bijan is definitely in that spot this week. I also will note, I looked it up. Both the Titans expect both. This is 28 minutes ago. The Titans expect both Malik Willis and Will Levi to play in this game. So not going to be doing anything there, really. I don't have other guys that I really want to talk about in this spot, but I'll definitely take my chances in some of these spots, whether it's a good play, bad play, ugly play, whatever. Bijan would fit the mold. Plus, let's move on. Let's go.
I never get Bijan right. I never get him right. So I'm just going to play him in my lineups for eternity and destroy his career.
He's going to be fine. I think it's all good. I definitely have no problem with that. Let's go to Minnesota Green Bay here. 43-point total. Can we get some Jordan Love flop leg? Does Minnesota let down after the big Kirk Cousins comes through in primetime now? The new narrative, Kirk Cousins is great in primetime last night.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins, I did really well last night. I did the McCaffrey thing like you did because it was like, I can't believe I'm getting McCaffrey probably at 50% ownership. And then I played Vikings, right? I was like, every time in the NFL, people are like, this team has no chance and this team's going to kill them. Just know that the difference between the best team in the NFL and the worst team is like that much. So just go play the other way. If Ray McLeod does anything, I shipped the $100 single entry last night. But back to this game, these are, I want to believe in Jordan Love. I really do. He seems like he has all the tools, right? And I actually like his weapons, and I like that they have a pretty concentrated usage, right? Like, it's pretty clear that Musgrave and Watson and Dobbs, and to a lesser extent Reed, that's basically the only guys he's throwing to for pass catching options. And then with Minnesota, I think they have really nice run backs. Addison is really starting to seem like a guy who took off last night. I don't even mind KJ Osborne, and really, I just love Hawkinson because Cousins just is going to give him 12 targets a game, like every game.
Yeah, I didn't look. I was assuming this, though. I don't know, though. It was Monday Night Football. Yeah, the Classic Slate pricing was already out, right? That because Brandon Powell is still $3,200. I would expect, even with Addison's great game last night, I still have to think Powell gets some love. He ended up doing plenty. And even though some will say, oh, well, it was when Addison went into the game, like, oh, he was still getting some love before that. And then speaking of love, like going back to with Jordan here, this is a really good matchup. Like, this is a spot for Christian Watson. This is a spot for Love. But again, like the chat says, Love is trash. Love is hot trash. I like this one. Yes, it sucks, but it's definitely an interesting spot. And another thing, you know who else sucks? Madison. Madison's been horrible.
Okay.
All the best ball bros in shambles. He was definitely a play there that people were getting on. And then now we've not seen it. Like, this guy is insanely, 6, 11, 12, 11, 17, 6, 13. It's all averaging like 10 points. When is he going to get 20? Because if he gets 20 at 5,600, you're happy. This is a great matchup on the ground going up against Green Bay. So could you get to some Madison here at all? Is there secondary stacks that you would like or anything you could bring up in that?
No. If I'm going to play a Viking, if like say I do a Jordan Love stack or I'm doing a correlation, I would think that Powell would probably be the guy I'd be most interested in just because they design plays to get him the ball, right? And when you have 3 or 4 design plays and you can count on those touches, like that's really nice because then you're also going to get just your natural catches just from the, from passing trees that are going to eventually come your way. So I am done with Madison. I was done with him last night. I think he's dust. You can just see Akers and Chandler just objectively better players than him. that they get the ball in space more often. They just take Madison and smash him into the ground. So yeah, I'm out on him.
Well, then I will say this. I actually don't hate you saying that, but I will say this is that I'll definitely think about Akers. We'll see as the week goes on. I know it's not planned, but at 4,800, one thing that stood out to me, and I know it's fresh in the mind, recency bias just from last night, but even late in the game, they were putting him back. Like it's like even the team is seeing it and saying, you know what, Alexander, take a seat. Madison, I'm going to sun you, put you down, take a seat on the bench. We're going to give Cam a try because Cam was getting in there late in the game, getting his shots at it. And I didn't hate to see that. And at 4,800, if later in the week, this is Tuesday, first look, we see Madison picking up steam. I don't often do this where it's like a situation like when I talked about Mostert and Ahmed that week. I'm not doing that. Sorry. Mostert was $6,400. There was no Achane. There was no Wilson Jr. Like there was no one behind him. That's different. In this case, though, if Madison picks up steam based on matchup alone, and at $4,800, $800 less, I can get some Cam in there. I will get some Cam in there because I definitely have interest in what I saw last night in a time that the game mattered. I actually thought that was pretty interesting. 5 games left, guys. There's almost 100 watching. Do us a favor, as always, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll come back to you when we get to 4,000 subscribers. We'll be giving away a 6-month bundle, and we're almost there. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're getting to late October, and the game is at Green Bay, so always be checking the weather because, the bad weather in late October in Green Bay is not a rare thing. So that could be the thing that ultimately may get me off of like a Jordan Love stack if I see that it's going to be blustery there or cold as balls or something like that.
Yeah, don't break it, but a smash is good, a hammer, anything you like to do to that like button. We always appreciate it. These shows are free. It helps us out. It's just the added support you guys can do for us as we're putting out as much content as possible. And at SHIPIT Nation, all our shows are free, so just keep that in mind. You guys can check it out, SHIPITNation.com, anytime you want to go to the site. Even if you're not subscribed or don't plan on it, that's okay. It's not for everybody, but you can go to shows in the top left corner and just see all of our shows there and click any of them. They'll all be free for you to gain knowledge, get some process, get better at the game. As we always say, like last night in Showdown, speaking of that, I had a decent night, a shot with CMC up top. I had the highest CMC in the King of the Beach $110 qualifier. Needed Purdy not to throw a pick late, but 2 members shift the slate. And that's what it is. It's not always Hoop, myself, the rest of our team winning. Members are coming over, learning more, getting their own process, being able to go out, stop watching others win, start winning for yourself. Definitely love to see that. 2 members were involved in that 24K chop. So that was really awesome to see. Continues. The run is solid. If you want to go to SHIPITNation.com, use promo code DEGEN75, DEGEN75, gets you 10% off, helps us all out. We appreciate it. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk Dallas and LA. Here we got the game in Dallas, 45.5 total. It's teetering, doesn't know which way to go. So what are we doing with this game here? What's your first thoughts? Anything stand out for you?
Instinctively, doesn't that total just seem too low? I would have just initially thought 48 and a half, something like that. So once again, anytime a line is lower than I think, I always feel like Vegas is trying to tell me something because I'm just going to tell you that those guys know this stuff really well. And they're making me think that maybe this game isn't going to be the inherent shootout that it feels like it would be with so many stars being on, 2 decently paced teams and being indoors, right? Like those are all the things you need in 2 defenses that aren't exactly great. So I initially was all about this game, and then I saw that total, and I was like, what don't I know here?
Yeah, the total is what will throw you off some, but like you said, this is one that we're going to have to monitor as the week goes on. It's Tuesday. We'll have to see how it shakes out, up or down. But again, this is also a game where I really don't care as much about the total. I know you don't either, but I'm saying like the total is what the total is. I want to see where are we getting our fantasy points from here. And interestingly enough, both these defenses have had their ups and downs, but it's the tight ends at 36 and 3,300 that seemingly have some good matchups here just on paper. And I want to shout out to Nick. Nick's doing the Lord's work here, as you like to say, throwing a $50 super chat. So we do appreciate the support. He says, I'd pay for this content. So yeah, hit the like, people. We do appreciate that. We will use this money to upgrade Title's internet for all of those free shows where the internet falls apart on him. We'll get him set up in the new house. So thank you to Nick. Just let Title know when you see him. He'll be here later on today for our NBA show. I know it's only a 2-game slate, but Title and Rio breaking down the 2-gamer with a lot of news, of course, NBA, injury stuff, always right out of the gates on day one. Who do you see in this game, DGen, that you could go to here from Dak Prescott, Stafford, and then Pollard, Gallup? We were following up. Gallup's only 3,400. Cooper Kupp, 9,000. Nakua coming off the big game, got a little bit of a price bump to 7,900, but still less than 8,000. Anybody that stands out for you here that you like?
I mean, this is probably as cheap as you're ever going to get a stack in CD, a DAC CD stack. That's a weird sentence. And that honestly kind of interests me, right? I CD really seemed to like get going the last time we saw the Cowboys. DAC at 6,100 at home, I never mind. And I feel like the Rams have enough of an offense to push this. Like this game could be 28-27 type game. And if that happens, DAC is almost certainly getting you that 20-25 point game that you're going to need to compete in GPPs. Where's the tight end? Oh, Jake Ferguson, 3,600. Don't mind that also. And Brandon Cooks at 4,600. So you have some pretty nice options. I'm convinced Gallup sucks, but let's see what his price is.
The Butterfingers, man. Everyone was so mad.
Oh, shit, he's 3,400? I take it back. Michael Gallup is a champion. The man is a champion at $3,400.
The targets are insane. 10, 5, 6, and 7 the last 4 games. The price, I have no clue what happened here. Like, he was actually really involved last game. Dropped 2 touchdowns, which happens. That's, you could see it. But at 3,400, it just makes this game so stackable, regardless of where the total goes or how it ends up getting to. I definitely think that's pretty interesting. So a spot you could go to here. And then you said it, stack attack, CD DAC. Definitely like that little combination of putting those wordplay together. And you've got it where you could set it up. CD at 7,600. Definitely like that price. I think that's interesting. I don't know how Pollard, oh man, 7,600. It's still a lot, but he's still getting the work. And then you go back and look, 7 and 5 targets the last 2 games. He's a guy that's getting mixed in a lot of different ways. So
there's something wrong with him. I'm telling you, he has some little injury. We're going to find out at the end of the year. He had turf toe or something. He's just not as explosive as he's been the past couple seasons. I think it's the wear and tear of being the number 1 back is the only thing I could think of.
And also it could be true because we had this conversation. How many times, and we'll move on to the next game after this, but how many times did we have the situation with Zeke and Pollard and everyone's like, oh my God, Jerry Jones. Oh my God, these guys are idiots. You have to play Pollard. And every time we saw him, it looked great. But to your point, my friend, we got to see him in spurts. We got to see him one game where he's the lead back because Zeke is out, like situational stuff where you're like, come on, let it roll. But now we've seen the full-time role and it has not been what we've expected. Again, he could put us all to shame this week and have a good spot here at home as a favorite. Those other guys are still behind him, but they're there. I get it. But at the price tag, 7,500, most people looking to be, I'm guessing, on wide receivers in this game across Gallup and Lamb, Ferguson at tight end, pass catcher, and then also you've got Nakua and Kupp, of course, that we don't really need to spend mention on. Besides, Nakua is just as easy to be the guy as Kupp is. They're still looking his way plenty, not just the results of last week.
Kupp being back down to 9,000 as opposed to 9,500, at least mentally to me, that's a big difference. Like I always find myself, I can get to a $9,000 guy I like, but when they start being 95, 96, 9,700, I'm like, Jesus, my whole budget goes to this guy.
Yeah, and we've seen it plenty in the past, too. That was a common theme these last few years with Kupp himself, actually, the 2 big years that, back-to-back where at 96, he was at 96, 9,700, getting you 35 and not even ending up anywhere near winning lineups or anything like that because so many other guys can get you 30 at wide receiver. It's random. I know. It's not like I know who those other guys to say it's easy, but to say you'll see it every week where there's a Josh Downs at 26 points for much cheaper, and that just fills it out differently, and you end up seeing that. So never going to tell you to shy away, but we've definitely seen it in spots. We saw it previous to that with guys like Devontae Adams. When he was in Green Bay, he was 9,600, 9,500 with Aaron Rodgers, getting you 35, not showing up on winning lineups or anything like that, just the way the construction worked out. Let's move on. Let's go to Cleveland, Seattle. We're back in Seattle for this one. Cleveland coming off a pretty big spot there. That was another big game for Cleveland going up there. So 39-38 it ended up. It was a high-scoring game. Could you see the same in this one? Because we have options here. JSN showed out last week. No DK Metcalf, but I actually thought he was going to have a pretty good game regardless. So what do you like with this one?
Jerome Ford's almost certainly going to be out. I'm hearing he's out 1 to 2 weeks. I'll be really interested to see if like Kareem Hunt goes back to kind of taking over that backfield, or if we're going to kind of see him in a split with Pierre Strong Jr. Right? If Hunt's going to be leading it, I do think this game's going to be sloggy. I think that 40-point total in Seattle, I think, is a pretty good indication of what I think the score will probably be like. But as I've already told you, in those sloggy type games, I don't mind running backs, especially if they're going to get 15 plus touches at an affordable price. So if I think Kareem Hunt's going to lean this backfield, he would kind of be my initial lean in this game.
Yeah, he definitely looks good at that price. And again, we'll wait on the injury stuff and see. But do you think people go back to JSN? The chat was talking about he did go up from 39 to 4,300. I don't know the news on DK, but I would assume, I actually thought there was a chance DK was going to play that game last week. So I have to assume he'll be good to go.
I think the answer's simple. If DK plays, I think you're going to see JSM probably around 5%. If DK doesn't play, you're going to see him around 35%. I think those two things are almost certain because he just doesn't get the targets or the usage whenever DK plays. But when DK is out, we've seen he's a pretty good play, especially at 4,300. He'd be like almost a free square at cash.
Yeah, another guy. This is actually a better spot. This is like again DFS in a nutshell for NFL. I don't think I'm going to get away with this one, like the Bijan situation earlier. But probably the best flop leg on the slate, possibility-wise, is Amari Cooper. I have no idea why they were not getting him involved early. I have no idea how he scored. What did he get? 3 points or 4 points something on a game where they put up 38 points or something like that. Just insane. 38, 39 points where the guy just didn't get anything. Now he actually went up $100, but This matchup is one of the, I think it's literally the best on paper is wide receiver ones against Seattle. So talk to me. Could you go back to him here, or do you think the masses will go back to him anyway?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I really liked Amari Cooper last week. He was like my favorite one-off piece. I was like, this game is a sneaky shootout environment. I got to have somebody in this game. Give me some Amari Cooper. He's going to sneaky go for 25, and he didn't do shit. It was so tilting. So I think that people are going to see that. You'd be amazed how many people just look at game logs and make their decisions based off of that. With him having such a poor week last week, I would be shocked at 60. And he went up in price if he's over 5% owned.
And I think then this is really gross, but I think if you do that, you do have to go back to the well on Deshaun Watson, because you have to assume if Amari actually does his job at 6,200, I feel like this is going to be a spot where it's going to be like 2 touchdowns over 100 yards. That is going to link to Deshaun. He was ready to go back in the game, they said last week. He just didn't. So any thoughts there? He's 5,500 if you want to go back to the well on him. Njoku, 3,600. I don't know. There's guys that you could go to here, but it's kind of ugly, but just a possibility that you could see it. And both these teams last week, usually teams you would expect to put up lower totals, but Cleveland getting involved in that big back and forth, it beat the total at half, basically. And then on the other side, if you look at it, like I think Seattle, just trying to see here, I forget what the final score of that one was. 20, well, no scoring in that one, but it would be more of a flop leg situation there. But could you get back to Watson, I guess, is the final thought.
I think the most interesting thing with Watson is him and Bijan are neck and neck for NFL's biggest bitch of the year. So I'm really wanting to get some money down on that. I think Watson's going to pull ahead. And because of that, like, he's almost unplayable to me. Like, I don't like the dude at all.
Yeah, one has a lot more money than the other right now, at least, too. So Watson's definitely very paid. And so some people say that, too, is just he got his money. He's like the Matt Wolf of the NFL. It's another one, right?
He won't be getting to keep all that money, if you know what I mean.
Yes. What was the it was actually Andy and I. Andy did a show and we were talking about who is the Matt Wolf of the NFL. And there was a lot of good guys in there, but now just thinking about it, almost does kind of remind me like Deshaun really got his paycheck, worked hard to get that job done, has been in plenty of, and Matt Wolf doesn't have the outside trouble that Watson went through, but in general, just a guy that looks like he's kind of given up now that he's got the paycheck.
Yep. I'm over Deshaun Watson. I'm over him. And every way you can be over a person, I'm over that guy.
We'll move on. We're over him. Let's move on. Let's go KC Denver. 46-point total. We are in the mile high for this one, brother. What's your thoughts on Kansas City and Denver? What do you got with this one?
I mean, Denver's a team that can be in some sneaky shootout games, and then when everybody thinks that it is going to be a shootout game with the Packers, it's like a defensive slugfest. So they're kind of a hard team to get a read on. But I'll tell you this, it seems like they have enough weapons to push the pace of a game. Marvin Mims and Sutton looked good, and I still think they want Judy to do well so they can trade his ass. Kansas City, like, I want to play him. I really do. Like, the Mahomes-Kelsey stack, like, reminded us of what we've seen the past 4 years. But, man, when you got to spend $8,400 on both of them, you're really getting yourself into a very narrow script where basically you have to have the week they had last week against the Chargers to pay off those ridiculous price tags. But everything about this just screams Chiefs to me. I just don't know how I'm going to be able to afford it unless some really good values open up somewhere.
Let me tell you how I think you afford it. You have to do this. This is you don't want to go back to Watson, and I understand it. You don't want if I know you said you would, but others I get out there that are watching maybe don't want to take the risk on a Jordan Love with Watson or something along those lines. Different Watson Christian, that is. But the way to get access to this one is probably going to be Wilson. To be honest, like you're going to have to go back because there's two good matchups here. Really good matchups is Kelsey and is Pacheco. And if you think Wilson can do anything in this game, both sides are just going to go back and forth, and you are going to get a game here. And I'm not going to say it's going to be sneaky because it's not, but if you go the Wilson side and can get in on that action, I think you're able to get Wilson with a receiver and Pacheco, or Wilson with somebody else. Wilson, Kelsey, Pacheco, who knows where Wilson goes? Let him spread it out. And then you've got the pieces from Kansas City that you want. That would be a way to get access to this without trying to follow up what we just saw happen last week.
If you had to stack him, who would you stack him with?
Gosh, it's tough, man. Probably
you did see that Marvin Mims had his highest snap usage this past week, right? And he's clearly, to me, their best wide receiver. Maybe that's my OU bias, but he's a guy who's finally starting to get on the field as much as he should, and clearly has that home run ability.
Yeah, I think that's definitely interesting. He's 3,300, and Rashee Rice got moved all the way up to 5,000. So if people want to talk themselves into a Kadarius Toney or a Sky Moore for 34 or 3,200, again, who's right there on the opposite side of them in a spot, like you say, snap count up, but then Sutton's been the touchdown guy. So again, take that for what it's worth. We're not looking at FanDuel here, but just to say it, touchdowns, if you want to go that way, Sutton on the other side. And honestly, man, I don't know. He said only Blake Kelsey if Swift is there. That's been crazy, but I don't know if it even, I think she just goes to all the games now. I feel like she's got special handshakes with Brittany Mahomes. She's doing all kinds of things. And I just don't think she obviously doesn't have to work. She's going to for her fans and go out there and do her thing, put her content out there. But I definitely think she's free to just enjoy what she's doing right now. And it definitely looks like she's enjoying these games. So we'll get on. We got 2 more games ourselves to enjoy for you guys. Try and get it done within the next 10 minutes so we can get you out top of the hour. But second last game, definitely an interest. I like both these last 2 games, actually. But let's start with Cincy, San Francisco. 3 weeks ago now, sorry. I know, Mayo was saying it's cussed that this came from, but I said it on this show too. I said, where do we see San Francisco's next loss? And we were trying to pinpoint way further down the season. 0-2 since asking where that's going to happen. And man, they've made some big mistakes. That Purdy throw late last night. I know CMC was giving himself shit for the fumble, but some of those Purdy throws, especially that last one, very tough to watch. Where are you at with this game? Cincy, San Francisco. Could be a good one.
On my Monday Night Football show and on my stream last night, I just kept saying, Brock Purdy is not Peyton Manning. Why do we keep treating this guy like he's amazing? All he does is he got the keys to a self-driving Rolls Royce, and they said don't crash it, and he still freaking finds a way to crash it. The guy is so overrated. I've been watching him since back when he was at Iowa State. There ain't nothing special about Brock Purdy. Anyways, look, this game, San Francisco has been relatively efficient at offense, and do not tell me it's Brock Purdy. It's because they have freaking amazing players all around. If they get Debo back this week, I think that this is a game that, the Bengals have been trending on offense. The 49ers, we know, are efficient on offense. This is a game that I could see getting there and being one of those afternoon shootout games that, I think other people are going to be playing the Denver, Kansas City, the Baltimore, Arizona. I think that this is probably the sneakier of the afternoon games to shoot out.
Yeah, I do like that. And then one thing I was, unsure of, I will say last night was with George Kittle, with Trent Williams being out at left tackle. Would he block more or would he play more? He ended up getting 7 targets still in that spot. This is an even better matchup going against Cincy. He's been a great spot. So at 5,400, I don't hate him. Mixon, 5,800. But man, it's just so tough to talk about it. But the guy just continues to get around. He's the same thing we talked about earlier with, it's kind of like Madison and Mixon, the double M's with the last name O-O-N at the end is 9, 13, 9, 14, 13, 10. All the work in the world and does nothing with it. When's it going to give? Will it give? I don't know. But he's there at 5,800. McCaffrey, 9,200. If you want to get there on this slate, I don't know if you had any final thoughts on just using him or Jamar Chase or anything like that. But anybody else that you really want to bring up specifically in this game before we go to this last one?
To me, it's going to come down to, I want to spend up at one of those wide receiver options with Hill or Kupp, or do I want to spend it on McCaffrey? And I just got to tell you, if McCaffrey was questionable heading into last night and he still had that much of a workload and that many designed plays, that makes me think that that guy is just as safe as they come. And having 20 plus points that you can almost count on from one of your running back positions is so valuable, because the variance at running back is wildly different in the NFL, because they're so much more touchdown dependent than they are at, say, college football, right? Whereas wide receivers with the full point perception, a lot of them can get there just on catches. Hawkinson had a big game last night, literally just on catches.
Yeah, just a quick look here too. Why would you be doing a show for NFL games on a Tuesday? The title, if you didn't see the thumbnail on the graphic, is a first look. If you go look that up, when seen or considered briefly and for the first time. That's why we're doing the show on a Tuesday, to have a look at the slate and see what's going on, get some early thoughts. And I'll tell you this too. A lot of this stuff gets found, and it applies to a lot of DFS sports too. A lot of what we say on a Tuesday goes forgotten by Sunday, and then some of the best low-owned stacks, plays, pivots, things like that, that people remember, oh, that was a good reason to be on that side. You can find a ton of leverage for that. But I'll tell you what, the people that win at DFS are the ones that put in the most time. So starting on a Tuesday, I'm always okay with that, my friend. Appreciate you watching. Thank you so much.
Abe, why ask stupid questions on a Tuesday? Another valid question. Here's what, this is what you probably don't understand, Abe. I'm not going to be mean because it's not my show, but people who are successful at NFL DFS aren't just waking up Sunday morning, going and sitting on the shitter and making a lineup. They start processing their ideas Tuesday. They let it evolve. They see what ownership is coming out. They see what other people are saying, and they keep tweaking their player pool, and then they ultimately come to a decision on Sunday morning and make their player pools and have lineups. If you're not already thinking about this stuff and using the best part of NFL, that it's only, basically a main slate once a week, then you're not doing it right. So that would be why we're talking about it on a Tuesday.
And Steven knows we don't build lineups on a Tuesday. That's not what we're doing here. We're not building any lineups. We're getting ideas and thoughts, and this can help you formulate a plan the rest of the week. And also sometimes these things will sneak into your mind that you'll be down to like a 2v2 and be like, damn, this one's going to be lower owned. And I remember what these guys said on Tuesday. I actually still don't hate that. That still applies, but everyone's going to play this now because of this injury news, or because of that, it projects one or two more. So again, picks and plays, not the case. It's going to be processed here. We're breaking it down from that perspective. But again, thank you. Appreciate you tuning in. Let's go to this last game and then get out of here. We got 5 minutes before the top of the hour. Try to keep that promise, but we got Baltimore, Arizona. Lamar just goes off last week, just absolutely crushes. Now, Patrick Mahomes followed him up. Man, that was a pretty good showing from Lamar, and it was me versus Hoop. I'm the Ravens fan. He's the Lions fan. I've been making fun of them all season. We had a battle on the pre-show about Lamar versus Goff, and then Lamar just goes out and absolutely crushes. So love to see that. What's your thoughts on this one, though? Josh Dobbs was looking serviceable until he was not, and then he still came back and got, just so you know, this people probably won't even believe this, he came back and still got 16 DraftKings points last week after all that shit, and basically just insane to see considering how that game started out.
Yeah, I think he got 9 of that on one run, though.
Yeah.
So he was pretty much garbage the rest of the game. But, man, I got to imagine Lamar is going to be super popular, right? People love attacking this Cardinals defense. Lamar finally lived up to what we think Lamar should be. It seemed like they were doing more designed runs. I mean, his touchdown run was a designed run that they had. If he's going to offer that rushing upside to go with the passing upside of the offense, because don't forget, he threw well over 300 yards in that game, too. If they're going to have that, I think Lamar might be the most popular quarterback on this slate, which is crazy. But, in a dome against Arizona after a big week, and he's rushing again, Lamar checks all the boxes. He could never do bad, or he could.
Yeah, guess what? Arizona D, $2,100. So you want to go against them doing bad? It's just if you need the money and you want to just pop it down there, $2,100. But I don't know. It looks really good on paper for these Ravens. We're going inside. I love the hey, speaking of Arizona, we could end the show on that. We'll finish our thoughts real quick.
Transition.
Been there a couple times. It's a great stadium. I actually went to a Ravens-Arizona game there. It was a Monday Night Football game a few years ago. So really good place to be. And I went there for the New England-Seattle Super Bowl, the famous where they should have ran it with Marshawn Lynch. I was there for that. So great place to be. We'll talk about Arizona at the end. But just in general for this game, I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Lamar. It's going to be Zay Flowers, Marquise Brown, maybe again on the other side if people have to go to a run back here. Trey McBride, I guess, could get interesting. He's on the opposite side. It's not the best matchup on paper for Andrews, but remember, Andrews is almost more of a wide receiver, I should say. But just to say, it's not really a great matchup for the other side either. The thing about Trey McBride, though, $2,800. So if you want to get there, he's on 6, 5, and 3 targets the last 3 games. He's getting involved and mixed in. If you think they're going to be down, it would just be a way to get different on the other side. Anything else you want to talk about with this game? And then if not, you can talk a little bit about Arizona. I know you've already previewed it on your show, but we can talk about that a little bit too.
Only thing I want to say is that Pat Mayo's nickname for Line of DeMercado, one of the sneaky better nicknames he's ever had. I love that one.
He comes up with some good ones, man.
That was a good one. Yeah, so we're going to the Waste Management in February because that's the weekend of the Super Bowl, and it's kind of the kickoff to when PGA really starts to get going, right? Me and Tambo are both going, and we're going to be posted up at the event. We're also going to be doing some stuff at night. If you've ever wanted to come hang out and kick it with us and watch some golf and football, I guess, we're going to be doing it. So, I would say reach out to us and let us know if you're interested in joining up with us. We're going to, you can go just do your own thing and meet up with us. You can come be a part of our party, whatever you want to do. We will be getting that schedule out, but just let us know because it would be good if we could kind of gauge the interest in this so we can make appropriate decisions around that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have some fun with it. Like you said, we'll book out some stuff, get some places where people know where we're at. We can meet up. We'll be at the course for sure, so we can check that out and be able to go out there and just walk around a little bit, find some spots there. Hopefully get into the new DK Sportsbook. Definitely looks incredible. It came out I think it launched just the other day, so I was looking at that online. I've been waiting around for that one. That's going to be good. It's Super Bowl weekend. This year, the Super Bowl is not there, but, Super Bowl parties on Sunday night are pretty good. I've been a couple of times for that as well, so definitely one of my favorite spots to go. Excited about that. If you guys want to check out anything else, do us a favor. Go to dgen75.com. You can use promo code SHIPIT there to get 10% off. Then you can go to shipitnation.com, use promo code DGen75 there, get 10% off that way, and check it out. NBA starts back today. You get all the sports that we cover over there. Any final thoughts from you, my friend, before we get out of here?
No, I will say this. Just because me and SHIPIT both do NFL, don't think that you have to choose one or the other. I literally go over to SHIPIT and was using their stack rankings to because I was stuck Sunday morning on what stacks I wanted to do. I'm still using their tools, even though I have my own site. So it's not like it's one or the other. And the best part is you can have them both, and it's still cheaper than other sites. So that would be the best piece of advice I could give to all those people.
Yeah, I'm using it plenty. Obviously, golf is it's in swing season. It's a break this week. We got 3 more weeks of swing season, but once football ends, we're having fun with it right now. I don't even want to say it out loud because it always goes by so quickly anyway. But NBA over on our side right now, you've got college football over on your side. So there's stuff that doesn't cross over, but there's stuff that does. But when PGA comes back, you've got the showdown angle covered just perfectly. That's obviously where you started off. We do some showdown stuff. We've had some great wins and fun with it. But having your projections, ownership, where people can get on your side, use the promo code SHIPIT, save 10%, and then have that add right into their solver package if they've got solver, is definitely a good way to go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on a Tuesday. Sorry, Abe, but we appreciate you guys all popping by, hanging out with us. We'll be doing the same show every week, the same time. It rotates spots. So next week we'll be over on the DGen75 channel. So subscribe there as well. Subscribe here. Hit the like on the way out. For DGen75, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.